Recorded by MCTV. All right, so we're just going to kick it off because I know Bob has a 1:30 meeting. Was he zooming in, Mike, or is he attending in person?
He was coming actually. Let me see what it is.
Sure. So basically, we may take the action items in a different order than they appear on the agenda. So just to help Bob out if he walks in while we're kind of walking through it. It's a discussion and vote on a revised land acquisition policy. And basically, in a nutshell, we're just kind of looking to streamline the process and improve communication, and just empower our town administrator and town council with their experience and subject matter expertise to kind of handle the negotiation process and the pricing and things of that nature, see if we can kind of save the taxpayers some money. Michael, did you want to chime in at all before I kind of go to Jim and Lynn? I'll go to Jim first and then Lynn. Jim, did you have any questions or comments?
He'll be here in 2 minutes.
Awesome.
What's
it? Yeah, we can eat up some. Yeah,
but just I can chime in. I think you talked about what it is. The big thing is whenever we do a land purchase, it's the appraised value.
Yep.
And really, all that I think the board did was really tighten it up. So the final arbitrators are the town administrator and town council. And the appraisal, just because it appraises out, that's sort of an end mark. It can never be more than what it appraises out for. But if you can negotiate a much cheaper price, that saves the taxpayers money. So that's all part of the negotiation process.
Totally. Yep. Thanks, Michael. Do you have any questions or comments, Jim?
I think there's just an oversight on the agenda. So on a select board policy, you're not able to, remember we did this last time, we did some policy, you're not able to introduce a policy and vote on a policy the same day. So let's just go through and we can discuss it, get everything out of the way, and then we can just put it on for the agenda for the vote at the next meeting.
So the current board isn't bound by a policy and procedure manual voted in by a different board or a previous board. It's more like guidelines. It's not a binding bylaw and things of that nature. So we can move forward and put it on a discussion and a vote for today. Did you have any kind of feedback on the policy itself and things of that nature?
So that is true, but it requires a vote to change the policy, not just an ad hoc. We're just not going to do it. That's why they have policy and procedure. Also, policy and procedure is not supposed to be brought up except at standard meetings, and standard meetings are defined as the two evening meetings.
Right.
This is by definition a special meeting, and so since it's a special meeting, the board shall not vote Section 3, Paragraph 2. The board shall not vote on a
Jim,
policy.
do you have any new points to make? Because again, I just explained it's not a binding bylaw, and you already made clear your position.
I just made clear that you need to have a formal vote to override it.
I'm telling you that we don't because it's not binding. So do you have any new points you'd like to make? Or
So you just want to disregard the entire policy and procedure manual of the select board?
I'm telling
anytime
you
want to
do
something different.
Yeah.
So anytime you want to do something different, you just want to override the policy procedure manual for the select board.
Would you have any thoughts, Michael, you'd like to weigh in?
I certainly don't want to weigh into the discussion the board's having because I'm not a member, but Bob did get the changes, and Bob made the changes, and Bob knows that we're voting them at this meeting, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michael.
Also, I do have a question on the policy itself. Section 3 states that the board may distribute a draft for comments for appropriate officials as it deems necessary, and it shall notify, not may, shall notify of the discussion any town boards or committees or employees who may be affected by this policy. So I was just wondering if the affected boards by this policy have been notified. Because it clearly says, although you may want to disregard this as well, Section 3, first paragraph, last sentence says, if they haven't been notified, then that's actually contrary to the policy and procedure manual as well. So that's 3 things in this that is contrary to the policy and procedure manual.
All right, Jim, we're done with the policy and procedure manual, and again,
Yeah, I know you are.
You refer to it like it's a bulletproof argument, and it makes anything you say ironclad.
you're not the mayor
We're
of the-
not
you're not-
bound
you're-
by. Don't interrupt me, Jim. I didn't interrupt you, and I'm telling you,
free.
I've told you multiple times, it's not a bylaw. We're not bound by it, and we're not bound by a policy and procedure manual voted in by a previous board. It's a set of guidelines. So
you're not
if
the-
you're going to continue to refer to it at future meetings and hold up the meeting, it's a paper shield. and that's
Wow,
what it's
so
worth. So
dramatic.
if you want to save time in the future, go ahead.
So you're
Glenn,
not
do you have any questions or comments?
You are not the mayor of the town. You are a rotating chair. You are
Jim,
not an
we're
elected
moving
chair.
forward.
No,
Lynn
you are
has
not
the
an
floor.
elected chair.
No, we're
You
moving
can-
on. You've made
you
your
s-
point 3 times now.
You set the agenda.
Jim,
You do
we're
not
done
say.
and we're moving forward.
You
Lynn,
set
do you
the
have any
agenda.
questions or
You
comments?
set the agenda. You do not say what we can discuss.
Gentlemen,
Period.
I think we need to just bring it down for a second. And we're here for the purpose of the agenda that has been outlined by our administrator and approved by town council. And I would like to move forward with that discussion. The discussion in regard to the select board policy and procedure is another subject that I think that we do need to discuss. But at this moment, I would like to move forward with the chair's recommendations. So I have no questions on this particular land acquisition policy being on the agenda today.
All right, thanks, Lynn. Bob, did you want to dive into the policy and procedure in terms of this policy, in terms of streamlining the process and kind of your feedback and, hopefully the improvements we can obtain with that?
Yeah, so this has been the unofficial or official policy of the town, is how we've acquired land, for the last 12 to 15 years or so. I think Karen O'Donnell, who's here in the back, could tell you that, a lot of times people come to her because they feel comfortable dealing with the Open Space Committee. And some of them want to donate land and some of them want to sell land. Some of them
Yeah.
want to sell land for good purposes. Some of them want to avoid obligations. So one of the comments I made on the policy was taxes have to be paid.
Yeah.
You shouldn't come to us because you don't have the money to pay taxes to give us the land in the hope you're going to get some relief and not pay your taxes. I mean, we have a process that we acquire land when you don't pay your taxes after a sufficient period of time by tax title and foreclosure tax title. And when Mr. Della Russo was here, we actually restarted doing that, and we actually took some land and resold some land, and we actually sold some land at a significant profit, far beyond that. So I think it's a decent policy that we have. I think there does need to be a few people involved. I think people became very comfortable dealing with the open space chair or the open space committee. Everything was confidential when it was done that way. If it involved land that was in a watershed, I know Ms. O'Donnell would speak to the DPW because sometimes they had some grant money that was available. Sometimes they have some retained earnings that can be used to purchase property. And, we did acquire some land within DEP zones 1 and 2 and took the homes down and preserved that area for our water supply. But I think the vast majority of land that we're offered these days, that's not exclusively, is open space or conservation land. So my understanding is when the Open Space Committee got land that was conservation related, they would discuss it with Mr. Grafton, who I think sits on the Open Space Committee. I don't know whether, Jim, when you were on the commission, whether you were brought in at that stage, but I know that Bill sat on the Open Space Committee. I don't know if you also did.
Bill would sometimes advise me on some actions, but not typically, no.
Okay. But he's a member of that committee, so.
Yeah, I think he's a liaison, yeah.
Or,
But we have 2 members of the Conservation Commission.
okay.
Yeah, so there are representatives
So
from
there were
Concom,
representatives.
yes.
But, I mean, the vast majority of the land that we got was conservation land or open space.
Yep.
So, there was that kind of symbiotic relationship between open space and conservation. We've been offered other properties that are developed. Some of them are very expensive,
Yeah.
thinking that the town would be the logical purchaser. But oftentimes we're not the highest purchaser for property
Mhm.
because we're somewhat constrained when we use CPA funds to an appraisal.
Yep.
When we're appropriating money to buy something other than land for CPA purposes, we can go higher than that, maybe even what the market is, but we just really haven't needed that type of land and we haven't made those types of acquisitions. It's not a secret, but, at some point, the Blackman's Point property was for sale, and there was at least some discussion about whether the town would be interested in it. Nothing has really come of that, so, but There've been other properties. But, I think I made a few tweaks on this policy that I thought brought me in at an earlier stage than what I would typically be involved in. And I thought it was important because when we make an offer to purchase or there's an offer given to us for acceptance, I want to make sure that the things that are important to me as the town's attorney are addressed. For example, title has to be good, taxes have to be paid, and there can't be any history of unlawful disposal of materials or outstanding environmental issues.
Yep.
Those are the three things that are most important to me.
Great, thanks, Bob. And Michael, for the motion for subsection 3, do I need to read the original and the new version, or just the new version?
If you read just the number 3 with the number 3 that's highlighted in red, because those are some additional changes to the policy.
Yeah, perfect, thanks. All right, so I'm going to go ahead to make a motion to approve an updated land acquisition policy for
having
the
any
town of
discussion on the
Marshfield
policy
with
itself,
the
Mr.
following. I asked you earlier,
I
and you didn't chime
tried,
in,
and you
we're
told me to be
moving forward.
quiet, so I tried to respect your request.
No, I said if you have a comment on the
I
policy
do have a
itself,
comment on the
proceed, and
policy,
you
sir.
didn't. Well, we
Mr.
moved
Chairman.
on, Jim. You had your chance. Don't interrupt me again. So I'm going to
Excuse
make a
me,
motion
you
to
are
approve an
out
updated
of
land
order.
acquisition policy
Totally out
for the
of
town of
order.
Marshfield with the following additional changes. Depending on the source of funds for the acquisition, the Open Space Committee, Board of Public Works, Community Preservation Committee, or Select Board should authorize an appraisal and designate a primary contact for seller during negotiation process. This shall be the town administrator for anything other than water resource protection. If the proposed acquisition is strictly for water resource protection, the Board of Public Works may authorize an appraisal and designate a primary contact. The seller should be told that all communication goes through the primary contact. The primary contact will be responsible for completion of the following task, and that's the amendment to subsection 3. Is there a second?
There is a second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right,
Abstain.
so it sounds like it's
I have nothing
abstained,
wrong with
2-0.
I have no objection to the policy per se.
Just
I do
for
want it
Kate's
noted.
purposes,
I do
is
want
that
it
a
noted that the
2-0
chair
vote?
has stifled a select board member from being able to articulate a discussion, which he has a legal right to do. He is not an elected chair, he is a rotating chair. His only authority, different from mine, is he gets to set agenda. He doesn't get to stifle legal conversation by a board member. And so there are 5 different reasons on the policy and procedure manual he has disregarded
Jim,
to
you've
get to
already
this
made
point.
that point.
Thank you.
And
I
again,
want to make sure I got it out
Go
again.
back and watch the meeting because we record it, and you'll see I asked you if you had any comments on the policy itself, and you didn't. You went
Thank you, Mr.
back for a
Chairman.
third time to the
Thank you,
policy
Mr.
and procedure
Chairman.
manual, so we're going to move
Thank
on.
you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, next up on the agenda, we're going to tackle some common vic licenses. Number 1 is a discussion and a vote on an application for a temporary common vic license for Levitate Music and Arts Festival. Michael, do you want to give us the rundown on the first action
Yes, so
item?
there are 3, and then if you could vote them individually that came in at this late date. 2 were already approved by Levitate themselves. That is the first one, J.C.'s Dairy. Rich Contrabone, he has a business at 812 Washington Street in Hanover. And then the second one is for Island Creek Oysters, Jessica Cagle at 403 Washington Street, Duxbury. And then the third one, which came in this morning, was for Rote Marine. Eric Rote has a stand at the fairgrounds. And there's, they have to get sign-offs, even though they came in late. There'll still be pending sign-offs from the Board of Health, the Fire Department, the Building Department, and Mr. Rote will need to get approval from Levitate, because Levitate did all the other common vitulers. They sent them in a nice, neat package, so, we'll give them they have to authorize, it's their event.
All right.
We would, pending their approval, the board would approve.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks, Michael. Lynn, do you have any questions or comments?
No?
Jim, any questions? Oops, sorry, Lynn.
No? Go ahead. I was just hoping for good weather for them.
Yeah,
That's all.
yeah, I know, right? That would be
Yeah.
great.
Yep.
Jim, do you have any questions or comments?
No questions or comments on this, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so we're going to break these up into 3 separate motions. So number 1, the board moves to approve the common vic license for J.C.'s Dairy, Rich Catambrone, business located at 812 Washington Street in Hanover, Mass. for the Levitate Musical Festival for July 8th through July 10th, 2022, with hours of operation at the Marshfield Fairgrounds from 12:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., pending approval from the Board of Health, the Marshfield Fire Department, and the Building Department. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, next, I'll make a motion to approve the common vic license for Island Creek Oysters, Jessica Cagle, a business located at 403 Washington Street, Duxbury, Mass. For the Levitate Musical Festival for July 8th through July 10th, 2022, with hours of operation at the Marshfield Fairgrounds from 12:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., pending approval from the Board of Health, the Marshfield Fire Department, and the Building Department. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then third, I'm going to make a motion to approve the common vic license for Rote Marine, Eric Rote, business located at 2205 Main Street, Marshfield, Mass. The Levitate Music Festival for July 8th to July 10th, 2022, with hours of operation at the Marshfield Fairgrounds from 12:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m., pending approval from the Board of Health, the Marshfield Fire Department, the Building Department, and Levitate. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and then our second item is a discussion and a vote on an application for a commercial parking permit for Levitate Music and Arts Festival for the Boys and Girls Club. They do this every year. They do it for the fair as well. I think the only thing to underscore is there was a new sprinkler system put in place for the front field at Grace Ryder. So if they could just be careful and make sure that they don't have anybody park on the front field and damage that.
That's not one of the designated parking
Oh,
areas.
good.
Only the two sides. Only 1 year during the fair they used it, and that's because the sprinkler system was defunct at that time, but that's not a normal parking area. Or they can't park in front of Grace Ryder either, because that's for the residents parking.
Perfect. Thanks, Michael. Any questions or comments, Lynn?
Nope, what's that?
Any questions or comments, Jim?
No questions or comments, Mr. Chairman?
All right, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the parking request of the Marshfield Boys and Girls Club, located at 37 Proprietors Drive, to park cars at the Levitate Music Festival from July 8th through July 10th, 2022, at the following locations: the Grace Ryder Field, South River School, South Ventris Building, and the lot across from the fairgrounds to the right of the fire headquarters. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to adjourn today's meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.